So you can spend like 6 months planning the absolute perfect trip to the happiest place on Earth. You've got the impossible dining reservations locked in.
Oh yeah, the matching family apparel packed.
Exactly. The meticulously mapped out route to bypass the crowds at Space Mountain. But there is this massive logistical blind spot that almost everyone just ignores.
Right, until they're standing on the curb with like 50 pounds of luggage.
Yes. How do you actually get from the runway at the airport to Main Street, USA without your blood pressure spiking before you even see a single castle?
I mean, it really is the ultimate bottleneck of modern tourism. People invest heavily in the destination itself, but...
But the travel part is an afterthought.
Exactly. The physical reality of traversing that final stretch, what they call the last mile from the airport to the hotel, it's routinely just left entirely to chance.
I always think of the transit from the airport to your Anaheim hotel as well, the pre-show of a major theme park attraction.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
Right. Because if you walk into a ride's pre-show and the room is just chaotic, the audio is blown out, and people are like stepping on your feet, it completely ruins the vibe for the main event.
You walk onto the actual ride, already highly defensive. Tense.
Totally. So today, our mission for this deep dive is to look at a piece of industry literature from a transit company that is essentially declaring war on that exact specific anxiety.
Right. We have a source breaking down the offerings of Ontario Airport Car and Sedan Service.
Yeah, which is a company in Montclair, California, pitching itself to Disney vacationers and business travelers alike.
And what's interesting is instead of just a standard brochure, reading this material feels like a really fascinating case study in how private transit is trying to position itself.
Basically as the ultimate anti-gig economy travel hack.
Yeah, exactly. When you analyze the text of what they're actually offering, it functions as a direct critique of the travel habits we've all just kind of blindly accepted over the last decade.
The ride apps, you mean?
The apps, the traditional multi-stop group shuttles, all of it. They're specifically targeting the fatigue people feel toward those options.
So the pitch is fundamentally about abandoning the roulette wheel of on-demand travel in favor of guaranteed execution.
Right.
Well, let's play devil's advocate right out of the gate here. It's the mid-2020s. I have a supercomputer in my pocket, right?
Sure.
I can open an app, tap a button, and a car appears in 4 minutes for a fraction of the cost of a private chauffeur. So why on earth do I need to hire a dedicated car service for a simple 45-minute drive from Ontario Airport to the Disneyland Hotel?
Well, to answer that, we really have to look at the mechanics of what happens to the human brain during air travel.
Okay.
By the time you walk out of those sliding glass doors at baggage claim, your cognitive load is it's entirely maxed out.
Oh, completely.
You've navigated the whole TSA security theater, you've endured the physical compression of an airplane seat, processed the ambient noise of the cabin.
And dealt with the low-grade anxiety of whether your checked bag actually made it onto the carousel.
Exactly. Your brain is fatigued, it's heavily depleted of dopamine, and essentially just running on cortisol.
You are basically running on fumes and, like, a stale airplane pretzel.
Right. And at that precise moment of peak vulnerability, the gig economy asks you to solve another complex puzzle.
Finding the pickup zone.
Exactly. You have to open an app. You have to figure out where the designated rideshare pickup zone is, which at many airports requires walking to a completely different parking structure.
Or boarding a secondary transit bus, which is the worst.
It is. And then you have to track a tiny digital car on a map, try to communicate with a stranger in a beige sedan who might be, circling the wrong terminal.
And then figure out how to physically Tetris 4 heavy suitcases into the trunk of a compact hybrid.
While traffic enforcement is blowing a whistle at you to hurry up.
Yeah, it's a massively high-stress environment. And this source, they really lean into that contrast.
They do.
They explicitly highlight their spacious SUVs, the legroom, the luggage space, and what they call a calm atmosphere.
Right. They actually take a very pointed shot at the apps.
Yeah. Promising you won't be squeezing into cramped rideshare cars with cranky drivers. That's a quote.
And the phrasing there is highly strategic. They're contrasting the physical compression of the airplane and the chaotic scramble of the rideshare pickup with an environment of total control.
Which is why they promise curbside or baggage claim pickup.
Yes. The chauffeur physically takes the luggage from your hands. So it's not just about having leather seats. It's about the sudden reduction of micro decisions.
Right. I'm looking at their emphasis on direct door-to-door convenience, too. They go straight from the curb at Ontario Airport to the Disneyland gates or the Grand Californian.
But no stops.
No stops, which is the exact inverse of those traditional multi-stop airport shuttles. I always compare those group shuttles to a terrible opening act at a concert.
Oh, that's spot on.
You know, you're exhausted, the shuttle drops off a family at a convention center, then it stops at 3 budget motels you weren't staying at, and you're just trapped in the back, pleading for the main event to start.
Yeah, the group shuttle trades your time for a lower fare, while the rideshare trades your mental energy for the illusion of on-demand convenience.
Illusion, right.
But what this source pitches is the vehicle as almost a psychological airlock.
A psychological airlock, I like that.
Yeah, it's a decompression chamber between two highly stimulating environments. You have this sensory assault of an airport on one end and the impending sensory overload of a theme park on the other.
So the physical space of a private SUV allows the family unit to just regulate their nervous systems.
Exactly. The parents don't have to navigate, the kids have physical space to decompress, and the transition into vacation mode can actually start.
But, okay, let's look at the financial side of this. Because physical comfort inside that airlock is instantly shattered if you're sitting dead stopped in Los Angeles traffic, just watching a digital meter tick up on your phone.
Oh, absolutely. The anxiety of the ticking meter.
Right, and the source heavily promotes no hidden fees or surge pricing. They offer a flat rate pricing model.
Which is a huge selling point.
It is. Whether it's a beautiful Tuesday afternoon or rush hour in pouring rain on the 91 freeway, your fare stays exactly the same. But here's my pushback on that.
Okay.
Isn't a flat rate just a gamble in the other direction? Like, if I land at 11 p.m. and the roads are completely empty, I'm overpaying compared to an algorithmically priced ride.
Well, you might pay a slight premium during off-peak hours, sure. But you have to understand what you're actually purchasing here.
Okay, what am I purchasing?
You aren't just paying for the fuel and the driver's time. You are buying risk transference.
Oh, interesting.
Algorithmic pricing models, like surge pricing, operate on a curve of supply and demand that aggressively punishes the consumer during moments of high friction.
Man, everyone has felt that stomach drop when you open the app, you see it's raining, and there's a 3x surge multiplier just staring back at you.
Right. And the psychology of that is incredibly damaging to the consumer experience.
Because it feels so unfair.
Exactly. For a family heading to Anaheim, they're already operating on a highly structured vacation budget. I mean, the flights, the hotel, the multi-day park hopper tickets, it's a massive capital outlay.
It's basically a small mortgage.
It is. So the last thing they need is a $50 or $60 variance in their transportation budget just because their flight was delayed by an hour and they happen to land during peak Southern California rush hour.
Right. When an app hits you with a massive surge fee because your flight was late, it psychologically feels like a punitive fine for something you had absolutely no control over.
Exactly. It creates an adversarial dynamic before you even get in the car.
It feels predatory, like the algorithm knows you're desperate, you know?
And that is exactly the vulnerability this service targets. The source highlights another really specific feature.
The flight tracking.
Yes. Real-time flight tracking. Because commercial flights are inherently unpredictable, the car service monitors your tail number.
So if you're delayed by 2 hours, they just adjust the chauffeur's schedule on their end?
Exactly. And crucially, they do not charge the passenger extra fees for that delay.
Wow. So they are effectively selling travel insurance disguised as a car ride.
They're establishing a partnership model rather than a purely transactional one. In the gig economy model, the app platform offloads the friction onto you.
Right. If you aren't at the curb when the driver arrives, you get charged a wait fee.
And if your flight is late, you pay the surge.
It's all on you.
But the private car model reabsorbs that friction. The business eats the logistical cost of the delay.
That makes sense.
And that single policy, absorbing the cost of variables outside the traveler's control, it alleviates a massive amount of the baseline anxiety that plagues the start of any trip.
You can just sit on a delayed airplane on the tarmac and not stress about your ground transport abandoning you or price gouging you.
Exactly.
Well, let's shift gears a bit and look at what actually happens inside the vehicle once the doors close and that financial anxiety is removed.
Yeah.
The source outlines several elements they consider part of their, quote, VIP experience, but one detail really stands out as a massive logistical upgrade for families.
The child safety seats.
The child seats. They provide pre-installed child seats upon request and emphasize the vehicles are thoroughly sanitized. Now, anyone who has traveled with toddlers knows that traveling with your own bulky car seat is an absolute nightmare.
It is a massive point of friction that on-demand apps structurally just struggle to solve.
Trying to lug a massive, heavy plastic car seat through an airport onto an airplane and then out to the curb while managing a stroller and suitcases is awful.
It's exhausting.
But installing it in a stranger's rideshare is worse. It's
Right.
like trying to defuse a bomb while a taxi driver glares at you in the rearview mirror because you're holding up the drop-off lane.
Oh, the pressure is intense.
You don't know the latch system of their specific car. You're sweating. The kid is crying. The fact that a chauffeur pulls up with the seat already securely installed is honestly an incredible value proposition.
It really speaks to how the definition of VIP changes depending on the demographic.
What do you mean?
Well, in pop culture, VIP conjures imagery of red carpets, celebrities, velvet robes.
Right, champagne in the back seat.
Exactly. But for a tired parent or a business traveler heading to the Anaheim Convention Center or Knott's Berry Farm, VIP is simply extreme logistical competence.
Just getting it right.
It's a flawlessly clean environment, customized temperature control, and a child seat that doesn't require you to wrestle with nylon straps for 10 minutes on a busy curb.
Yeah, the source mentions their fleet consists of late-model sedans and SUVs with leather seating and tinted windows. So it's catering to Disney vacationers and executives alike.
Yes.
But there is a catch to all of this logistical competence, and I want to challenge the viability of it for a second.
Go for it.
To get this service, the company requires you to use their online booking form or call them, right? They give the number 909-836-1983. And they heavily recommend booking 24 to 48 hours in advance for guaranteed availability.
Especially around holidays or school vacations, yes.
Right. So in an era where we expect everything instantly, aren't they asking the consumer to take on the burden of being a hyperplanner? I mean, you are entirely giving up the spontaneity of modern travel.
You are. But you have to look at what that spontaneity actually looks like in practice today.
How so?
10 years ago, the gig economy promised us infinite frictionless spontaneity. Tap a button, a pristine car appears.
The golden age of rideshares?
Right. But the reality of a maturing market has shown us that spontaneity comes at the direct cost of consistency.
Oh, okay.
On demand means you might get a clean car or you might get a vehicle that smells intensely of smoke. The driver might know the route to the Grand Californian, or they might rely entirely on a buggy GPS that takes you to an employee parking lot.
That has happened to me.
Exactly. Or they might accept your ride, only to cancel 3 minutes later while you're just standing there on the curb.
So the spontaneity we cling to is largely an illusion anyway.
The people this service is targeting have realized that. When you are investing thousands of dollars into a highly regimented theme park vacation, where your dining and your ride access are already scheduled down to the minute.
Which they absolutely are at Disney now.
Right. You do not want spontaneity in your airport transfer. You want guaranteed execution.
So the 48-hour advance booking is the necessary structural trade-off.
Yes. The consumer is essentially saying, I will trade the ability to push a button on a whim in exchange for the absolute certainty that a professional will be waiting for me when I land.
Okay, I see.
For their target demographic, that requirement isn't a burden, it's the entire point. They want the logistics locked down and completely removed from their mental checklist days before they ever step foot in an airport.
That makes a lot of sense. So if we pull back and look at the entire strategy outlined in this source, Ontario Airport Car and Sedan Service isn't just selling a ride from point A to point B.
No, not at all.
They're leveraging every pain point created by the gig economy and offering an analog solution powered by modern predictability.
They're defining themselves entirely by the negative space of the rideshare industry.
Oh, I like that phrasing. Negative space.
Yeah. Where apps use dynamic algorithms, they use flat, predictable rates. Where shuttles use circuitous multi-stop routes, they provide direct point-to-point transit.
And where gig platforms penalize you for delayed flights, they absorb the variance.
Exactly.
And by prioritizing those family-tailored comforts, like specifically solving the car seat dilemma, they're really aiming to completely streamline that crucial, vulnerable window of time between the runway and the resort.
They're selling certainty in an ecosystem that has become increasingly defined by unpredictability. There's actually a specific philosophy stated in their literature.
What's that?
It says, your vacation starts the moment you land. They're rejecting the idea that transit is merely a tedious precursor to the actual experience.
Oh.
Yeah, they're arguing that the transit is the vital first chapter. If the ground transportation logistics are handled by a dedicated professional, the traveler's mental transition from stressed passenger to relaxed vacationer can begin immediately in the back seat of that SUV.
That brings us right back to the idea of the pre-show setting the tone for the ride.
It really does.
And that is a fascinating lens through which to view not just a trip to Anaheim, but all travel. I want to leave you, the listener, with a final thought to mull over today, drawn directly from that concept.
It's a powerful idea.
It is. In behavioral psychology, there's a cognitive bias known as the anchoring effect.
Right, where humans rely too heavily on the first piece of information offered when making decisions or judgments.
Exactly. So if we apply that to our travels, how much of our overall memory and enjoyment of a destination is secretly dictated by the quality of that very first 45-minute car ride from the airport?
It's a great question.
If your anchor is feeling respected, comfortable, and unburdened, does that unconsciously change the lens through which you view the crowds, the lines, and the expenses of the entire week that follows?
You're starting at a surplus instead of a deficit.
Yes, because if you arrive at your hotel already exhausted from fighting the algorithm on the curb, you might spend the next 2 days just trying to recover your baseline.
You're playing catch-up.
But if the opening act is seamless, it just might set the stage for actual magic.
Mm-hmm.
Something to consider the next time you are standing at baggage claim, debating whether to tap that app or book a little certainty.